Welcome along to another episode of Super 7, a show where we ask a current or former rider to give us his dream team, his ultimate lineup, his Super 7. My name is John McGilvery.
And I'm Liam Rudden. Yes, we have an amazing guest with us today who is going to give us his dream team. As John says, Super 7. It might be somebody that he's ridden with. It might be a childhood hero. It might be a legend of the track. The choice is his. And we have a very special guest today, a man who is featured in more Super 7s, I reckon, than anybody else since we started the show. John, introduce him to us.
Yeah, you're right, Liam. This guy's been in just about every single Super 7 that we've done, so it's good to have him on the show. Welcome along to Darcy Ward. Darcy, thank you for joining us.
Good, boys. Thanks for having me.
How's life over in Australia treating you?
Yeah, good, mate. We're quite lucky here in Australia with what's going on. So, that's all to the side, really. But no, life's good, mate. Obviously married and just finding my new life. It's a little bit different. It's not so wild and it's not so travel around the world and this and that. So it was a complete 180 and I guess it was a stop in life for a bit, but then you just figure it out and deal with what you got and try and make the best of it. So, but yeah, all good, mate. For what is, mate, I'm a very lucky man and to be in my position and doing what I'm doing. So I'll just take that.
Yeah, it's obviously we won't touch on too much on what happened, Darcy. You've had a lot going on over the last few years, and it looks like something that you've adapted to in the circumstances extremely well. You look like the kind of guy who's determined, and you've not kind of wallowed and said, "Look, life," and just curled up into a shell. If you like, you've kind of faced it head on. You were showing us some standing frames and things that you're using. You've really adapted it and really fighting it.
Yeah, I mean, it was hard for the first, probably the first 2 years, maybe 3. It was sort of hard, but not like it took a toll on me that brought me down. It was just trying to figure out what my new life was going to be, sort of thing. Obviously I miss my racing and miss everything about it. Being a part of a show and being somebody big star and traveling the world and everything that comes with being a superstar was all a bonus. At the end of the day, I only started riding my bike because my dad gave me one, and I just turned out to be good. So it was all a bonus. That's the way to look at it. But yeah, so I miss all that, of course. But like you said, now it's not that anymore. So I've just adapted as best I can to what I got. And like I said, it's good what I've got. I got a beautiful wife and living on the Gold Coast in a beautiful house and got plenty of people around me that still care about me or whatnot and that kind of rubbish. So yeah, man, just dealing with it. Just a different life. I got a lot more time on my hands compared to what I used to. And it's just different, mate. I'm almost, although I don't work, my life has just become normal, with the race at the Speedway. It's not normal at all. It's a superstar life, and especially at the top level I was at. So now I'm just back to doing stuff on me weekday. I want to be what it really is.
Catch up with our mates and have a beer, Liam, eh? How different it is in Australia to the UK. You seem to be coping with COVID. I was certainly a lot better than we are here in the UK. And most of us would give a right arm to go and meet a few mates.
Yeah, I didn't mean to rub that in, boys. But, we're sweet, eh? Like, we don't have any. We got nothing here, mate. Like, I don't even know. Obviously, it's all in the news and it's completely hyped up here and it's madness. But if you sort of forget about it and just do your own thing, you don't even know. And that's only due to our situation here. But yeah, let's just see what happens, mate. It's not something that I like to talk about because it's not something that's any positive. So, a bit of rubbish, mate.
You proved you're quite a resilient character, Darcy. What have you learned about yourself over the last few years? And have there been people around who have been specifically helpful to get you to where you are today? Because you've got some exciting projects coming up as well now, haven't you?
Yeah. I think I learnt. I don't know. I wish I could ride a bike now because I've learnt so much more of how to ride a speedway bike. To be honest, just helping kids and stuff. And I was helping Ryan Douglas a lot the last 10 months, and the only way I can tell him how to ride is how I rode. And then so it made me study how I rode of why I was good. So I got to learn. I got to learn a lot. So
Were there people that have helped you through that have been particularly important to you over the last few years? Obviously, your wife would be one.
yeah, just the wife, mate. Obviously being here every day, and for the first, now I'm quite independent, and I could do everything by myself. But with the struggle, it's still a struggle. But I'm quite independent, I guess. I could live by myself and get on with by myself because I have a lady that helps me in the mornings with morning routines and stuff like that, because that's obviously quite hard. But this is only the last couple of years. The first couple of years were really tough, and I was very unable. So the wife was a huge part of that. Like, there's no words to describe it, and the time and effort she put in and all that kind of stuff was second to none. I don't even know what to say, really. It's quite a crazy story that me and Liz have gone through, leading up to before I crashed, having problems in the relationship as everyone goes through. But yeah, to now being in a really good position, and she loved it here in Australia. Misses her family, of course, very much, and it's very sad, but she sees the benefits of living out here in Australia and in the sunshine and a very free world out here. So, we want to raise our kids in Australia. So that was a big part why we come here.
It's a beautiful part of the world that you are in, and as you say, as you've rubbed it in just again, you've got sunshine as well, which John and I never get to see here.
36 degrees today. It was outrageous.
I nearly slipped on the ice walking the dog this morning, so very different.
And you've got some exciting projects coming up. I mean, things are going well for you, aren't they?
Yeah, mate. Just again recapping on just figuring out life. It's so different to. I didn't really get involved in Speedway, to be honest. There was no reason why. Like I still watched it, and there was a while there I was watching a lot of my stuff back and just revisiting it and reliving it. But I used to go to the track and I'd just sit up on the hill and drink beers with my mates and just enjoy it because I'm still a fan too. So I just did that for a long time, and then as my Darcy Ward Invitational got closer, and there were, to be honest, when I started helping Ryan Douglas, dragged me into the pits more, So once I started being down in the pits a little bit more, it started to enjoy it a bit more, and I have like a bike that goes on the front of my wheelchair, and it turns my wheelchair into a trike, so I can go off the road and move around. Otherwise, I got to push on the dirt. So before I got that thing, I didn't like going down the pits because it was hard to wheel around and it was all on dirt, and it just pissed me off, to be honest. So then I got that bike and I started helping Ryan, and now I'm fully involved. It just sort of fell into my lap a bit, but really, really happy to be doing the project. Like I said, I'm the promoter of Speedway here at North Brisbane, and taking over the whole side of Speedway and trying to build it up a bit. We have a pretty good base here, to be honest, and Brisbane's a big city, so you promote it right, you can drag the people in. There's a lot of bike fans, just because it's Speedway and they like a different bike. You can get those people in that like bikes. Once they come, mate, they'll come again. You just got to get them in. So, but yeah, and the whole deal of why we think it'd be successful, because I can work well with the riders. So. We're trying to get all the boys over. I had the 3 Polish boys lined up to come over this year with Magic and the Pavlicki brothers, but that fell through because of COVID. So just trying to get some good riders out here in Australia, and also help the kids out in Brisbane. We were out today up at the track, and they had a practice day, their last practice day before I take over. So they wanted to do a bit of a just their last practice day. So we were up there today working hard and with the juniors, just trying to give them a little bit of insight early on before they go and learn it, sort of thing. You know, everyone's going to learn when they start hitting England and start going England. You learn really quick, but if we can give them some information beforehand, then maybe they could adapt a bit quicker and take it on board earlier.
How different is Speedway promoting in Australia to the UK? It seems to be a lot more individual. There's no real team racing in Australia. It's a lot of individuals. I actually watched one last week, I think it was, and I love how there's never not any action on the track, really. If it's not the kids, it's sidecars, it's 500cc. There's always something going on. Do you think the UK promotion could learn something from that?
No, I don't. It's not as professional here, so we allow more things to happen because we're not concentrating on the big boys. You know, it's more of a everybody instead of, you know, in England it's like, right, well, we're at a professional league. You know, people are paying to watch. You know, you could bring all the other stuff and don't bring the good guys, and no one would come. They only come to see the guys. But Australia's good, mate. It's very independent. Each club has their own thing, and it's very individual. You know, individual meetings only, really. But we have a couple of things coming up this year with me taking over in the club and doing that. We want to do like Queensland versus New South Wales and do some teams riding meetings and stuff, and do a return leg with, I don't know if you see, Craig Boyce is quite heavily involved in the sport at the moment here in Australia, doing a lot of things and doing an awesome job with the kids and stuff. So he's 10 hours south and he's in Sydney. So he has his program down there. I got my program up here. We have some good, mate. We got some talent coming through Australia within the next 5 years, I'll tell you that.
Looking out for then, Liam. So we will head to your Super 7, Darcy. When it came in, there was a couple of names in there surprised me, a couple of names in there I expected. What was your thought process, and how did you select your Super 7?
Yeah, I did it. I thought about it. You know, like I guess I selected them of who has good values that I would like. I guess they all have values in them that I tried to value in me. You know, those people, I sort of took something from their style or the way they rode or their mentality, and I sort of tried to put it into me. So I guess that's why they're all there.
Head to your first one then, and you're staying in Australia for the opening rider of your Super 7 then. He's a 3 times world champion. Who's kicking off your Super 7?
Crumpy. Crumpy has been my number.
Why is Crump in your team?
I mean, well, he's Jason Crump. He's one of the best to ever do it. But I feel like Crumpy, you know, obviously when I grew up, Crumpy was the man and someone that I idolized. But as I become a rider and started to watch him, I feel like he was really hard on the bike. Like he was not a pussy, you know. Crumpy, you didn't mess with Crumpy, you know. He was not dirty at all. That's not what I'm saying. He was just hard, you know. And I remember like the Italian Grand Prix and like coming into the corner, he would bounce off the fence coming into the corner just to get more, just to make that extra meter of speed, you know, and stuff like that. And like just stuff like that with Crumpy. I just used to watch the way he rode. And I thought he was very aggressive on the bike and could put it anywhere. He was very good at putting it wherever he wanted to. And it always stuck with me that Crumpy could do that, you know.
You mentioned he's not a dirty rider, but a hard rider. What, in your eyes, is the difference between those two?
Just going for stupid gaps.
Yeah.
And he was hard. If he seen a gap there and he thought he was able to take it, he would take it. And sometimes it'd stuff you. But he never took anyone out, you know. Obviously, that's a difference. You know, you can stuff someone and make him sort of stuff up because you touch him, you know, it just shocked him. But when you're obviously touching riders all the time and taking them down, well, that's a different story.
John and I were talking the other night about our Speedway heroes. I mean, I know John's was a Glasgow rider. We don't talk about that. And mine was an Edinburgh rider back in the day. And we both met our heroes, and it's fantastic when you get to meet them years later, all the rest of it. What was it like for yourself, you know, with the likes of Jason, riders that you watched as a kid that inspired you, and then suddenly you find you're in a pits with them, or you're at a meeting with them, or how does that feel?
Yeah, I mean, it was. I took it on board. You know, I grew up knowing what I wanted to be, and my dad always said, you know, just take it all on board. So I always took it on board as a privilege. I mean, yeah, I mean, racing against Crumpy would have been the first time in Torrin when I raced for Torrin in 2009, and he raced for Roslav, and I was only a junior. And I do remember riding against him the first time, and Chris was on my team, and we were talking about it, and I was like, right, I'm going to race against Crumpy. And stuff like that. And I remember the first time beating him as well was at Torrin. It took me about 3 years to beat Crumpy, I believe. Maybe 2. So like I would have raced him probably maybe 4 or 5 times a year until I got going. So probably 2012 we would have started racing a bit more, but we don't race that much, you know. Only, you know, 4 times a year, really, home and away each club in Sweden and Poland, and then, you know, it can only be one race a meeting if it pans out that way. So, so he didn't get that many chances to race again. But I do remember beating him for the first time, and I think he even had a word to me after the meeting, and it was congratulating me and that kind of stuff. So, and he's still riding, by the way.
Yeah. Riding at, what is he now, 45 now?
He's getting old, I know that. But he's going good. Good for the sport.
Okay, now then, at number 2, you have a 2 times world champion. We are off to Poland. He's the current world champion. Who have you got at number 2?
Young Smazlik. Yeah, I mean, you know, he can't not pick Smazlik. Me and Smazlik grew up together, sort of racing, coming through Poland, and I mean, he won the Grand Prix at 16. You know, like the kid's a freak. You know, and I've said to a couple of people around me, you know, it would have been a crazy time right now in Speedway for me and Smazlik to be going head to head with Wolfie too. You know, I think us three would have been bouncing around between us a lot. But yeah, Smazlik's a freak. I mean, Smazlik's just naturally talented and can ride anything, you know. I think he doesn't always need a fast bike because he can ride the bike to make it fast. So in saying that, it's very hard when you get to the top level. You've got to have a good bike because it's so hard. But yes, I love everything about Smazlik. Very, very, very mobile on the bike, which sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. But you know, when I was growing up, he was working with Golub a lot when Golub was a Gorjov, and he took a lot of things from Golub and that kind of thing. And yeah, even when you know, the most thing that sings out with Smazlik is I love his practice starts as a rider. Like when you're watching someone, you notice quite detailed things, and I just love the way he sits on a bike, and he's got many world titles in front of him. I think he is the man to beat every year. And I really don't think anyone can beat him, to be honest. I think Wolfie can. Wolfie's mentality and approach is correct. He's very strong inside. You know, even though Smazlik can win, he could win another one next year. The year after, Wolfie's still going to come. He's very tough inside. So, but yeah, Smazlik natural ability is like no other. No one else in the Speedway world has Smazlik ability on a bike.
Now, it's interesting you say that and you call him a freak, because there's many of the big names we've had on this show who probably would have called you that, because they said that you could do things on a bike that you shouldn't have been able to do, and that they watched you do it and couldn't believe what you could do with that. Yeah, you said it's a natural ability. Is it instinct? You said to us earlier that you found you were quite good on a bike, which is, I think, the understatement of the year. Was it, was it just an instinct that you had when you first got on the bike as a kid?
It's not, mate. You know what? It's a lifetime of riding a bike, is what it is. Smazlik's been doing it from a kid, and his dad's not that he's been pushing him, but he's had a speedway bike in front of him. He rides his motocross bike and gorge off a lot. That's a lifetime of building up to be a world champion. You can't just be same with Wolfie. Wolfie moved to Australia, and his dad was smart when they did that to come and use our junior program, because our junior program is the best in the world. So it's just a lifetime, mate. It's not something. He's naturally talented, but that just doesn't come. He can't just get on a bike. That's a lifetime of building himself up, learning from Gollop when he was younger, and really getting invested in that, and riding his motocross bike. I'm sure he rides a push bike. You know what I mean? It's a lifetime of, that was the same for me. I was what I was on a bike, but like since I was 2, I've been riding a motorbike. My father had a junior speedway track, and he used to have a wrecking yard, and the car park was a junior speedway track. So when no one were coming, I would ride all the time in a junior speedway track whenever I wanted. My parents were divorced, so when I went to dad's, I rode speedway and rode bikes. So, it's just a lifetime of everything. Like I was riding push bikes every day at skate parks, so it's the same with Smarzik, mate. Like it's just a lifetime of his family created him,
You say that about his ability on a bike. Today, and we spoke to a few riders, especially the guys that rode in the 90s and things, where it was the drinking culture was there, and it's much more professional now. The guys are much more on it in terms of diets and all that sort of stuff. Do you see Smarslik has all that behind the scenes as well?
Yeah, and it's just a different era, mate. Like you said, through the 90s and that, it was a party, really. And I guess, even in 2009, I think me and Chris were sort of the last partiers, to be honest. Yeah. Like now, not that I'm not involved too much, but I don't hear of anything. So I feel like me and Chris were the last straw of the party and the drinking sort of side of things. You don't see it now, and you sort of there's no one good enough to be able to do it because no one else is doing it. Where back then everybody was sort of drinking and all that kind of stuff. So we're like Smarzik now. He's I don't even know if he drinks or anything, but like no one does, mate. It's professional as like you've only got to look at like Magic and the Pavlicki brothers, like they're so fit and healthy and everybody is, mate. It's a completely different era because if you're not doing it, these kids now, we also went through a period there where we changed bikes from upright to lay down. So when we went to lay down, everybody was learning how to ride this lay down, where now these kids, they only know lay down. So they're all so fast on them because that's all they know. So if you're not doing, you could be talent doesn't beat the hard work if the talent's not doing hard work or whatever the saying is. So it's a combination now, mate. I think the sports, it's not that it's tougher, but we don't have the names in the sport quite yet. They're so young. They're all young, man. There's a new generation coming.
Future's bright for Speedway with these guys coming through for the next 10, 15 years.
I would like to see more numbers of kids. I know Lemo is trying hard to get some English kids. Like that's what I'm worried about is who is the next generation, Here in Australia, we're pumping, mate. We're pumping, but with England and compared to Sweden and Danish, compared to what they were 15 years ago, is scary. It's not good. And that's because people didn't take interest in the junior programming and it needs to be really looked at. But I know Lemo's working really hard at the moment. I know everything that he's trying to do. So, it takes time, but it's a bit of a worrying time. But besides that, mate, these kids on bike, they're fast, man. Even Dan, look at Dan Bury, he's fast. He's only young. These Polish kids, mate, they're just smoking it.
Well, even here, and on a much lesser scale, but in Scotland, if you look when we had the training track in Lithgow, and you look when we had the Dale Devils team, and you had the Andrew Tullys, the Willie Lawsons, the Derek Sneddons, the Barry Campbells, Sean Stoddart. These guys then on went to have some kind of Speedway career. Without that starting point, there can be no finishing point.
Yeah. So we have little tracks here in Australia, and the kids starting to ride their peewees around. They start on peewees to go around, and it's just a facility. That's the thing you're talking about, professionalism, right? We just spoke about, for instance, I don't want to use Matt but Matt, he don't have a little track for the kids to come and ride. Do you know what I mean? So that's just a professional venue. There needs to be a couple more investments in the smaller tracks for the kids around the country, and you got to find the right venue that can do it. Bellevue can't do it because where are they going to put it? Got a football pitch in the middle, so it's tricky, mate. You've got to set it up properly.
Well, we'll head to your third pick of your Super 7, and we're not sure whether we're going to the UK or Australia, but he seems to have sided with the UK. Who do you have at number 3?
Wolfie. Yeah, I mean, and Wolfie's the same. Me and Wolfie are really good mates, but Wolfie's a strong rider. I think he's the only one that I can see that can beat Smarslick in the World Championship. He's rides the bike well, so mentally strong, and is a danger, is a threat. Good gator, only a short guy, so he's not got so much weight to get to the first corner. I've seen he's lost a lot of weight of recent too, and he's looking really thin. And he stepped it up too in 2013, and went with all the fitness and the training, and just brings the sport higher. It brings it to a higher level. But yeah, I mean, I grew up with Wolfie racing, and we were similar age, so we were always very competitive against each other, me and Wolfie. It's funny with Wolfie. I was with his father-in-law in Melbourne the last time I went there, and he asked me, so who did you ever worry at the start line, he could beat me? And I was like, you know what? There's only one person that I thought that could beat me, and it was always Wolfie. Not that I didn't care about him beating me, because you can't win every race, but I always knew Wolfie could beat me. And it was funny. He asked me that because 2 weeks later, Wolfie had told his stepdad or his father-in-law exactly the same thing about me. So yeah, but I've had some good times with Wolfie. We're close mates on and off the bike, and yeah, can he beat Sparks and get another world title? It'll be a tough task.
Wolfie made the decision after the 2014 season to stop racing in the UK, which raised a lot of eyebrows at the time. It looks like it was the right decision for him. What do you think? Was that the right thing to do?
For Wolfie, yeah. I think it suits different people differently. Wolfie, I don't think likes to be too busy. I think he's very involved with his bikes there for a while. I know Jackie does a lot now, but Wolfie was very involved there when he was trying to become world champion and all that kind of stuff. But I think for Wolfie, I think he sort of needs to just have his practice days at Ross Lab and be a bit more not so busy and traveling around. I don't think Wolfie sort of likes that. I think he sort of likes not being so busy. So everybody's different, where for instance, like Doyley, I think Doyley needs to be busy to be in his best form. I think he would agree to that. We've seen him when he hasn't been so busy. He's not been on form, but yeah, I think, it was tough and that's not an easy call for Wolfie to make, not to ride England, but at the end of the day, it turned out to be the right decision, and I think it's.
Darcy, had it continued for yourself, Ty, Bartos, that would have been an incredible three that would have been chasing for the world title year on year. Who are the guys that are then the 4, 5, 6, 7s that could really over maybe the next year or two stake a claim to say, look, I want to be the top 1, 2, 3 in the world?
I'm not sure. I think Lambert's Lambert's good. I think he can. give him a year under his belt in the Grand Prix, and we'll see where we're at. But I think he can be dangerous, as in a future world title holder. But in saying that, you got to be special to beat Smudley. But yeah, no, I mean, I don't know. How do you break into the top 2 or 3? You know, Freddie's doing well. But you know, how old's Freddie? And I mean, this is his best form. He's riding. Freddie's changed his style over the years, and rides the bike. Once that just clicked my brain. Once Freddie left England and stopped riding at Wolves, where he needed to turn the bike some more, his style's changed a lot now, and he's perfected it a lot better for bigger tracks of the last year or two. So that's just clicked in my brain. He rides a lot different now, and he rides the bike really well. I think he's really smart. Even sometimes I wonder if he studied me, because some of the things he does with his right leg and the way he sits on the bike, I think, oh, you've been watching me, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I would like to see Magic do a bit better, but I'm just not sure if he has the consistency to do it at every track. I'd like to see. I don't know about the top 5. I'd like to see Peter Pavlicki get in more. I think he's an underestimated rider. He sometimes can screw with his head a lot in the pits, and that doesn't help him. But I don't see Madsen doing too much. I don't see Dudek doing anything. Yeah, tough one, man. Freddie rides the bike well. If Freddie can put it together, Freddie's a contender.
Okay, let's move on to your number 4. It's another world champion. We're heading back to Poland. Who have you got at number 4?
Mr. Thomas Golob. Yeah, I got the chance to race with him in Torren for 2 years, and really learnt a lot. And I loved everything he was about, you know, like just very professional, making sure everything was perfect. And his riding style, he was quite a tall rider. So I got to study him a lot I'm quite tall. So I took a real interest in the way he rode the bike, and he used to practice, and like, he would almost have a completely different practice style because he was trying to teach himself to ride better on the bike. So when he did it on the racetrack, it would become more natural because he was doing it in practice so much. So I always imitated him and what he did on practice. And that helped my riding style a lot. So, yeah, by him being a tall rider and I had a chance to race with him, and I mean, he's Thomas Golob. He deserves more world titles than one, but he come through a tough era, you know, with Rick Hartz and Crumpy, Nicky. It's a tough era to be a world champion. So it's tough anyway. But so yeah, no, Golob deserves more world titles, but just didn't quite get it. But yeah, like I said, I imitated him a lot, and being a tall rider, he was someone that I watched on what he's doing that I thought worked and how I could put it towards myself.
Darcy, what are the pros and cons of being a tall rider as opposed to the pros and cons of being a small rider?
I think from the start, I was practicing today and I was working with Zane Kennedy, and he's quite a tall guy. So you know, you got to think of who's your good gators. You got Nicky, Greg, Wolfie, Hampel. I mean, who else shined? Laguda's Leighton. But anyway, your best gators, they're quite short. So it's about like when you go from the start and your legs are dangling. Well, my legs are quite floppy, and I have a lot more. When I move my leg, my weight can transfer a lot further because it's bigger. Where with these little guys, they just keep their legs down and they're already touching the ground, you know what I mean? Where with me, with a tall rider, every time you move your legs, because you get quite crunched up. So when you're adjusting yourself throughout the start and adjusting your body weight, anytime you move your legs, it's quite a significant shift in weight on the bike. So it just takes used to dealing with trying not to be too radical with your legs, because when you're making a start, you want it to go straight. Anytime you fishtail, it's taking, you're losing speed because you want pure grip straight. And every time you fishtail, if old mate next to you is a world champion, doesn't fishtail, he's going to beat you. So yeah, with the short guys, they just don't have as many limbs to quite think about. Where with the tall guys, our legs are quite long and dangly, so it's just a bit harder. And weight too, right? Like the shorter guys weigh less. You know, like I was always about 67 kilos, where Wolfie's probably 60. So I know 7 kilos is quite a lot from, you know, what's the first corner, 30, 40 meters to get to the first corner. So he's just as good as me, but he's 7 kilos lighter, he has an advantage. So, you know, they're the fundamentals of being tall. But in saying that, you know, sometimes when Wolfie makes a mistake, I'm just using Wolfie because he's short, makes a mistake, he might not be able to correct the bike as well because his arms are shorter. So there's pros and cons of things, but I wish I was a little bit shorter, that's for sure.
What's the ideal height for a Speedway rider then, do you think?
Probably, yeah. Probably like Holder's pretty good. Holder's quite tall, but he's not too tall.
If he says 5'9", I'm in there, Liam. I'm starting my career at 40.
I don't know nothing, mate. I just go off looking at him.
And you rode with Golob for a couple of years, a guy who was many people's hero. What was he like in and around the pits? Because he strikes me as an extremely determined character.
Yeah, he's not much in the pits, mate, to be honest. Does his own thing.
There we go, right next.
He doesn't do nothing, mate. Nah, he's quite willing to help, but I think he acts like his English is average, but it's a bit better than it is. So he kept to himself. He was not willing to help. Like, he would help the juniors. He did quite a lot for the juniors, but when it comes to someone like me and him, and we're both good, it's not like I need a lot of him and he doesn't need a lot of me. So you sort of do your own thing and you just work together as a team. But yeah, he was good, man. He was pretty quiet, really, to be honest. Like, you know, he's Thomas Gollop, so he's got his whole full crew, and you know, he's the leader of the team, really, because he's Thomas Gollop. We're in Poland, you know. But he was good. He was a good guy.
So we've got to the fifth member of your Super 7, and I have to say, when I saw this name, it was a bit of a surprise for me. So we're interested to see how he's made it in here. He's a 4-time Latvian champ and a 3-time Russian champ. Who have we got at number 5?
Gregory Laguda. So the older brother of Laguda. I mean, he's dropped off the boil a little bit of late, but, you know, when I was coming through Poland and riding, man, he could have been world champion. Some of the stuff that I've seen him do on a bike in Poland is he's done some shit that I've done, you know, like I've done some crazy shit on a bike, but he's done just some good stuff as well, you know. So he always attracted me of, like, he was another one. I could line up with him, I guess, when I was coming up. So, you know, I wasn't at my peak, but he was always one where I was like, he could easily beat me, and he could pass me. There's not many people I was worried about passing me, but you get him on singing on a day, and he's done some special stuff, and I knew he could pass you, you know. So, yeah, he just didn't get the correct run, mate. Never really wanted to go into the Grand Prix. Didn't really qualify for him. Never qualified for him, and you know, never really had interest in him. So it was a bit of a shame, but yeah, he's just someone that I've watched do some crazy shit, and I think he's good. That's about it.
Said that you never did the Grand Prix and what have you, or he didn't want, is it that he didn't want them enough? Is he quite happy doing what he's doing? Is that the difference?
Yeah, maybe he didn't have the desire to be a world champion. You know, he was happy earning shitload of money in Poland and race on Russia and all that kind of stuff. It just didn't. Some people it doesn't grab, mate. There's not many that it doesn't grab, but some people get attracted to the money and they're pretty happy just to be doing that. and that kind of thing, I guess, you know. And look at Artem. He had the same attitude, to be honest. He didn't really want to be in the Grand Prix. He was pretty good. It didn't excite, like, whatever it was. And then now he's sort of having to figure out, like, oh, I'm getting pretty good. I could be a world champion. Mate, some people are attracted to the money and the lifestyle, and they're happy to be doing that. And I'm not speaking for him because I'm really not sure, but you know, he just never really wanted to be in the Grand Prix or do the Grand Prix. I don't know if he got offered feel like he even got offered a wild card one year behind the scenes. Don't know whether I'm making that up or not. I feel like he got offered one and he denied it. I'm not too sure about that. It rings a bell in my head, but can't clarify that. But yeah, mate, just don't know.
Well, we'll just have to get him on the show, John, and then we can ask him.
Exactly. How's in English? Is it good?
Oh, his English is the worst. That was why we got along when he did me in the fence. He had nothing to say.
All right, then we've got a team of world champions here, Darcy. We've got another world champion at number 6. We're going to head to the UK, or more precisely Maltese. He's a Maltese-born rider. Who have you got at your number 6?
Laramski. Oh, Mark Laram. Yeah, mate, just a warrior on a bike. I think that's the best way to describe me, as a warrior. I never gave up. Shit gator. Couldn't gate for nothing. And was just a warrior on the bike. He never gave up and always dug deep. And my earliest memories are like him and Crumpy going toe to toe, you know. And when I used to live here in Australia before I went to England, my dad had VRCs, is that what they call it? VCRs?
VHS.
Yeah,
he's showing his age here, what a young boy.
I don't know what they are, but so I used to have of the Grand Prix, you know, and I used to watch it all the time, just all the time when I'd go to Dad's, and it was him and Crumpy always battling, you know, and he just always stuck in my hand, and then I was fortunate enough throughout my career. Naramsky was retired, so there was many occasions where I got to have a beer with him and enjoy the bloke, and you know, we got on really well. So yeah, he was someone that I idolized just from watching those videos, you know, when I was growing up, and him doing he used to do some crazy shit too, you know. He was one of the guys that would stick it out on the fence no matter what, leg back, like get in the dirt, nothing scared him, you know, and you know, that's a nice thing to watch. So yeah, I guess stuff like that sort of maybe implanted me when I was young to be able to be the rider that I was, you know.
Yeah, you said at the beginning that each of the riders in your team, there was something that you maybe recognised in yourself that you saw in them as well. Is that what you saw in Mark Laram? That sort of like the warrior on the bike, the taking the risks, the fighting to get out there?
Yeah, maybe. And, you know, the way I was, I can't describe, but the only way I can think of it is everything that I was implanted as a kid, you know. And like I said, Laramsky was a big part of me when I was growing up. Just watching these same DVDs over and over and over, and my dad watching them together and stuff like that. So yeah, maybe. I mean, we sort of had two similar styles. I was a shit gator too. He was a shit gator, and we did a lot of work from the back, and he weren't scared to go around anybody, and I guess I wasn't either. So I guess I got respect for him because it put into what I wanted to do.
And the great thing about that is it makes for great racing as well when you're a shit gator, because you really entertain the crowd.
Well, we've got one of your own, at ours, and Josh Pickering, who'll probably be the first to say he's not the best gator, but boy, is he entertaining. Yeah,
he can't gate either.
But he's brilliant to watch. You know, guys like that, you know, we watch Josh in the Edinburgh behind us, just right behind the bend where I am, on that third and fourth bend, and he just winds it right round there, and he's fantastic to watch, and they're what you pay your money for.
And Josh would get that because, you know, Josh can ride any bike. Like, he used to race dirt track growing up. I think he's thrown a motocross bike around for a fair bit. So, you know, he's not scared to throw a little. It's not as little, like they're fast bikes, but they're very light. So if you've got a natural ability of growing up on a heavier bike, when you get on this thing, it's much lighter, and I guess you can throw it around a bit. So
There you go. Darcy's watching videos of Mark Laram and Rory's watching videos of Peter Carr. Where's the difference? Well, we'll go to your last member of your Super 7, and a man who it's impossible to dislike. He's the 4-time world champion, an all-round great guy. Who have you got at number 7?
the grin.
The grin.
The Green Hancock. Yeah, you know, I was lucky enough to captain Greg I'm pretty proud of that. Captain him to an Elite League title. But yeah, I mean, you know, Greg's a master. He's been around a long time, and he's a Valentino Rossi to Speedway, really. So no brainer there. But I got to work with Greg a lot. You know, we raced in Poole, and obviously that was a big reason why he come to Poole, was because I was there, and obviously replacing Chris for the injury. But we worked together at Pier and Turner in Sweden for 3 years. 3 years. So I got to learn a lot. You know, I was not a good gator, and he was. So I approached him all the time about a lot of things about gating, and not that I even approached him. I would ask him to tell me, you know, because I wanted to be better from the start. And so we worked a lot. His starting technique is much different to mine, and much different to anybody's, because he rides different frames. He has different bikes and that, blah, blah. But he has so much experience and knowledge of the sport, because there's nobody that loves the sport more than Greg Hancock, I tell you that. So he's a learner every day too. You know, I know he's retired, but during his last time, he's a admirer, and he would learn off me too. You know, he used to say, "I'm learning from you," and you know, because I was the young guy with hunger and rev in me, and that drove him to be a bit more aggressive and whatever, you know. So so we bounced off each other there for a couple of years, worked really good together. I mean, I don't know. There's not much you need to say really, but it was really nice. Yeah, I learned a lot from him in 2013 when he come to Poole, about the mindset from the start, and just being explosive from the start. You know, when you drop the clutch, you got to give it everything. It's hard to explain because you just don't ride bikes, but like, you just got to be so explosive from the start and give it everything you've got. And I learned that from Greg. So I now tell kids now here in Brisbane to do the same thing.
He was a great character as well, Darcy, and John and I have talked about this many times. There seems to be less and less characters in the sport these days. I mean, as he takes a sip of his beer there, I mean, we hear from, I think Shane was telling us that you were one of the characters in the sport. Does the sport miss those characters that we used to have?
Was briefed on a little bit earlier. I think that we're just going through a change in the sport at the moment. There's a lot of young kids coming through at the minute, and not all of them have established themselves. So where previously, you know, we had Crump, Adams, Sullivan, Golub, Rickardsson. We had these names that have been in the sport for so long, where now we're going through this change of young riders, right? And they're just not quite I don't know. It's funny. It's not that there isn't characters. Maybe the sport is changing, you know, and we're going through a change now where people. Yeah, I know what you mean about this. Not, you know, Nicky was the villain. Well, he's gone. There's no villain at all. You know, there's not really. In my eyes, I think people in the Grand Prix sometimes are a bit too friendly. You know, I think Wolfie's good. Wolfie knows. You know, he's very smart. He knows where you need to be friends and where you don't. But because we travel around airports all year together, you sort of create friendships in a way. But at the end of the day, like, I don't want to be any of your mates because it's a competition. But because we travel around, everybody's sort of friendly. And with other sports, we're not all fighting for a bike ride. You know, with other sports like MotoGP and motocross, they're all fighting to get a team to ride a bike, where we fly our own bikes and we just try to make a 7-man team. So it's not like you're battling against each other for money and that kind of thing. So everybody's quite friendly. It's a bit of a funny thing, I guess it just creates a bit of a dull. Yeah, there's not too many characters really.
Do you see when you're working with the youngsters in Australia, do you see any of the youngsters and you think there's a character for the future? Or do you see that sort of like the difference in the kids coming through?
Yeah, I don't know, mate. The kids are so young. There's a couple of kids that I'm working with that are, they're characters. But, I also only deal with them at the track too. So it's not like I hang out with them and learn who they are too much. There's only one or two that I do. But, I don't know, mate. As you would know, as elder guys, the world's changed, mate. Like, everybody's so into their phones and all this shit. And, like, people just forget it's a different time of communication in this day and age, and maybe that reflects on characters and building people. I don't know, mate. I'm no fucking scientist or whatever it is.
So Shane Parker told us about dragging you out of a nightclub at 2-3 o'clock in the morning when we did the interview with him. Do you have a Shane Parker story? Dragging him out of a nightclub or anything?
What did he tell you?
It was the night before. It was the night before a meeting. And it was about 2 o'clock and he's got you by the ear. Right, Darcy, come on up the road. And he says, you turned up the next day, not the best shape, but then went out and blitzed it. But we're just wondering if you had a Shane Parker story that you'd like to embarrass him.
Well, you see, not really. He's retired. He retired, and so like his era and my era, it's so different, where he got to experience that era because he was a manager. So it was a bit tricky, but I do remember beating his track record at Glasgow, and he was pretty pissed off about that. That was my first time at Glasgow, and I think it was even my first 4 laps at Glasgow, and I beat his track record. And he'd been riding there for like 3 years, and I beat his track record. So I don't know if he was kind of pissed off about that actually. So that was pretty funny, but no, not really, mate. Like I didn't get to experience any kind of partying or, anything like that. So
you would need a team manager to hold all these 7 guys together. Through your experience, who do you think the man for that job would be?
Oh, yeah, you'd need some obviously Midlow's my teammate. He was the only one that I really got to work with Roscoe, I guess, but not for too long, only for a month or so. So it's not like I got to experience anybody else. I just got Midlow's shit. And then in Poland, it's completely different. Oh, Midlow, of course. But, every manager I had with, Stefan in Sweden was really good. Stefan Anderson was really good. He was really, it's a completely different manager. He was really professional over there. Where Midlow's got an easy job. Midlow does fuck all, if I'm honest with you. Right? Midlow gets given a winning team, and he's just got to deal with them in the pits because Matt does all the work, right? Matt builds a team and blah blah blah, and most of the time, Pool's got a bang on good team, right? So Midlow's just throw out a tactical here and there away, and he's good to go. But Midlow's really good in the pits. Like, you deal with different characters. We had Leon Madsen and at Pool there for a while, and like he's super quiet and like does his own thing. And then you got me and Chris like running the show. We're the top dogs there, and you got Leon. So Midlow was good at managing. Oh, I guess so. He's good at managing the riders' personalities. And
Man management.
Yeah, and like Leon needed to come out of his shell a bit more. We needed to calm down. So like he just managed you like that, that was Midlow's good thing. That's how we put it. That Matt would put a team together and Midlow would manage them in the pits, Try to get the best out. Midlow's good at getting the best out of his riders. There you go. That's the truth. But he just got given good teams.
Okay, and you need somebody to captain this team. So which one of your 7 would be the captain, and what would they bring to that role?
Probably Not Smarsley. Wolfie, yeah, you could put Wolfie. Golem, no. Laguna, no. Loransky, you could. Hancock, you could. Crump, maybe not Jason. You could put... Wow, that's a tough one. I would go between Wolfie and Hancock. Wolfie and Hancock, what about Loransky? I guess I didn't really get to experience what Loransky was like in the pits, where I got to experience Greg and Wolfie. So I don't really know too much about how Loransky is in the pits. But, I would probably go Wolfie, to be honest. That would probably catch a surprise to some people, but yeah, I think Wolfie. I think Wolfie's good at encouraging people. You know, especially if he's going good, he'd be good at encouraging people. Yeah, I'd put Wolfie.
And it's Heat 15 decider. You need two of your guys to go and get you a 5-1. Who's going out in Heat 15?
Crumpy and Smarzik. I think you put Crumpy off the inside and you put Smarzik off the outside. Crumpy will be the hard man in the first corner and make room, and Smarzik could work magic from there.
Obviously, the Speedway world's massive. There's so many riders, and to pick just 7 is extremely difficult. Are there riders that you have missed out that you would have liked to have included in it?
No, not really. I thought about it. No, you said 7 and I picked 7.
What name would you give that 7, Darcy? You've got to come up with a name for your team now.
I mean, I don't know, boys. Jesus, it depends. Everything's called pool or a city, right? I mean, Jesus. Yeah. I don't know. The All Stars, pretty original.
Yeah. Darcy's All Stars.
Start.
Okay, we've got 10 quick fire questions for you, Darcy. Yeah. We'll start off with the first one. A most memorable time on a bike. Your most memorable time on a bike.
Probably my first under 21. Probably my first probably my most memorable. Maybe not my most, but the one that grabs me a bit more than others. Probably my first under 21. I wasn't expected to win it. It was my first year in Europe, and like the lineup was, you know, Vasulik, Wolfie, Pavlicki, maybe, Magic, stellar lineup. You know, there would be a couple more that just wrong that I can't think of, but I wasn't expected to win it. You know, we just sort of it was mind blowing, really, to be honest, and bit of an eye opener. But another one that grabs me that I've spoken about before. First time I beat Nicky and Greg was at Torren. At Torren, and they raced for Chesterhover, and they were on a 5-1. Nah, they weren't on a 5-1. But they were both in front of me, and I passed them both in the same race. I got a bit lucky with it. There was a couple of things that happened, but I got a bit lucky with it. But yeah, I passed them both in the same race and ended up beating Nicky and Greg, and I was over the moon. That was sort of that was in 2009. So like it's like my third meeting. And yeah, that was just pretty crazy, especially that time of my career.
Do you ever have a lucky or favourite helmet colour?
Yeah, no, it sort of changed throughout my career. Yeah, I used to like yellow because I knew I was going to miss the start. So I'd like to be able to cut back, where if I was off red and I missed the start, they'd all clamp me and I'm stuck. So if I was off yellow, they just let me out there do my own thing and I would try past people. But I mean, it depends where you are. All tracks are different. Like you wouldn't pick gate 4 at Poole, but you know, you would pick gate 4 at Bellevue, the old track. So it's very, very varies. Depends where you are.
Bearing that in mind for number 3, was there a gate that you went off better, or was there a gate that was more favourable to you throughout your years?
No, not like red, blue, white, or yellow. No, not really. Different surfaces favoured me. I was better when there was a bit of dirt on the start. But everybody can tend to be better when there's dirt on the start. But when it comes to a bit slicker and you have to work it and you have to have a bit more of a feel, I struggled with that against the top guys. Like they were really good at it, and took me time to develop that. Yeah.
Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
If you hadn't been a Speedway rider, Darcy, what occupation would you have done?
Oh, fucking not much.
I just got out for that.
My wife just said I'd be in jail. Fuck. What do you want about Liz? Yeah, nah, I'm not sure, mate. Yeah, even growing up, I didn't really. I don't know, mate. Not, it wouldn't be good.
Do you have a favourite pastime or hobby?
Used to be motocross. I used to love motocross, to be honest. Like, it really factored well with my. Oh, I used to love it, man. Like here in Australia, I used to take my bike out every Thursday to this track out the road where it's a public track, but it was fresh tracks on Thursday. And I used to love it, mate. Like packing me ute up and loading my bike up and go out there, ride, do a couple hours, go to the pub afterwards, have a steak, have a beer, go home, wash my bike. Mate, I lived it's not a lavish life, but it was bloody good, mate. It was good to what I was doing. You know, when I'd come back to Australia, I didn't have to work, I had money and lived a high life, really. And just did whatever the hell I wanted, you know. And you know, since I was 15, my parents will tell you, no one ever told me what to do, you know. So I lived a very free life, and I could see it caught me in a lot of trouble. Many times I got in a lot of trouble, and Speedway and off Speedway, because my parents were pretty lenient, I guess, and I was a bit of a prick of a kid and sort of told them fucking what for a bit and that kind of stuff. So yeah, I was lucky to race Speedway and earn money, and it's not a grounding. It's not grounding hard work like these motocross riders and that. The shit they do to be fit and all year round is crazy. It's a hard sport. Where Speedway, you get that time off. Like, you don't have to be bloody made out of rock. You know what I mean? Like, you just got to be fit. You got to keep slim. You got to be in good shape. You got to be sharp. But that's easy to be sharp, and that it's just, you know what I mean? So it's not. It was good, man. For me, you know, you could give me, do you want to be a Speedway World Champion or a Supercross Champion? I would nearly pick Speedway because it's an easier route. It's an easier life. You know, you can still have a life and live outside of Speedway, or not outside of Speedway, but you're not on the bike so often. You know.
Okay, Darcy, number 7. What's your favourite film?
Probably the Wolf one. What's the Wolf one, Liz? Wolf of Wall Street.
Must be a Speedway thing. There's a few of them have picked that.
Wolf of Wall Street. I think it's legendary. What a legend.
Would you rather have a race suit or a race jacket?
Race suit. Oh, that's a good question. Race suit.
Okay, with your new promoter's head on, what's the worst thing about Speedway?
The track. Track's got to be good, and because I'm a rider too, so like, even at my meeting we just had, track was beautiful, but it was too deep, and I wanted it to be different. Yeah, probably the track, mate. You know, because then you got to deal with the riders, right?
Yeah.
You got to keep them happy.
On the flip side of that, Darcy, what's the best thing about Speedway?
Yeah, mate. I think probably the people you meet and the communication around it and all that kind of stuff. Like, my whole life is Speedway, so like everybody I know is Speedway besides my schoolmates, you know, but I don't talk to them as much as I used to or anything. So yeah, probably just the communication central around it, you know, like it's quite a small sport in a way, and you know, even when away fans come to other tracks and there's a bit of argy-bargy, it's all part of it, you know. So yeah, probably just the communication and creating a life around it and all that kind of stuff.
Well, brilliant. Well, Darcy, our time has come to an end. It's been fascinating talking to you. Thank you for joining us on Super 7.
Yeah, no worries, boys. Thanks for having us, eh?
Yeah, it's been a great time, Darcy. Thoroughly enjoyable. I think that's one of the best, John, so far, don't you?
Definitely one of the best. So thank you, Darcy. And it's finally good to have someone who's appeared in so many Super 7s to give us his side of it. So thank you very much.
I got a couple of them, eh?
Yeah, you made it into one or two, mate.
Even more than a few.
Yeah. Well, listen, thank you again. If you want to catch up with us, you can do it on YouTube. And we're also part of a podcast now where you can catch all our previous Super 7s. We'll be back again shortly with another rider who will tell us about his Super 7.